SCVs, dislike that quite a bit. Those should be target firing the depots or the engineering base, or at the very least something armored. But I mean, either way, this was a pretty severely damaging attack. And as we can see, that after that first sprint where Braddock caught Drewby off guard when Drewby was expanding up here, I mean, Braddock just has an unreal advantage. Getting the 2-1 upgrades, at least should be, very clearly emphasizing Marauders in this mix, going for a big ground set of units, getting a little bit of upgrades for his metal units, getting that vehicle weapons upgrade, but just expanding like a mother. Oh my god, he's going bonkers with his expanding. So I'm really kind of like this play. Part of me wants to try to get rid of quite so many Vikings. At the very least, I like the fact that the Starport can make us Vikings if we need, but definitely is going to be adding on some more medevacs for us, because that's obviously going to help for harassment. And I mean, just, you know, easy clean up to this point in time. But I love the Marauder mid-game. I love the aggressive expanding. I might even cut tanks until I have a third base set up, all to make me a little bit more aggressive and make me a little bit more manly. And as we are going to see in a very short period of time, Drewby cannot withstand the 1/4 food deficit. So we will just breeze through the last 1 or so minute of the game. Oh, no, it looks like the last 10 seconds of the game. And we are just kind of going, ooh, that's a little bit interesting by Braddock. So I want you to think of these as two different pieces in your brain. There was all that Banshee stuff early on. So that's one thing. We're going to put it over here to the left. We're going to put it right under my fancy overlay. Thank you. And then we are in the other half, you're going to think, okay, well, there's this Marauder-ish mid-game. Focus on Marauders, but some tanks and some Vikings thrown in. And later on, some Thors. And obviously expanding in more barracks. But Marauders with some tanks and some Vikings. So, as I scratch my whittle eyes, so, wow, that's, let's again table that early game opening. I think that Marauder openings are increasingly becoming a little bit more of the standard. The Marauder is sort of the core piece to your army, and it's all these little spices that you throw in with the other units that are going to make it good or bad. But what is so critical about any general mid-game plan is then to say, what sort of openings can we do that will integrate well with this? So, obviously, this Banshee opening works out well because we have the 1-1-1 mix at the start. We have a barracks, a factory, a starport. Sweet. So now we can happily get any of the tanks we wanted. We can happily start getting the Marauders whenever we please. We can even have this starport available to get our Vikings a little bit early on. And this Banshee can do some pretty decent damage to our opponent and let us get ahead in this income battle. Because as we got the chance to see, I opened up that income tab and wow, Braddock was getting pretty damn far ahead after those 2 scans went down by Drewby. Now, I don't want you to get too analytical. I mean, we must always take breaks from analysis to be, just normal people, so we don't end up homeless or something. But when I opened up that income tab, I pretty much said, wow, after 2 scans from Drewby instead of 2 mules, Braddock was pretty far ahead in the income. And that's it. I didn't go into the details of the numbers and say, oh, it's like 22.5% greater. And it's so easy to get so obsessed with the numbers that you miss the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is just very simple. I had a thought of, scans might mean that Braddock is ahead in the economy. Check the income tab. Oh, cool. My theory is pretty accurate. Done. End of story. And the reason it's so important to do that is because Blizzard provided great tools. I mean, they have production tab, resource tab, income tab, a badrillion, trillion, gorillion tabs in there. And really just don't stress too much about any of that stuff. Instead, just worry about some of your big picture junk. So anyways, let's load up the next one, because we're going to think mainly about openings and how they will lead into our mid-game. So let us bounce directly into the next map, Metalopolis. Load Starcraft 2 beta client and do not crash my replay, please. I like begging inanimate objects to bend to my will. Oh, it's getting a little hung up. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Interestingly, Braddock is in the same color, in the same position, against an opponent in the same position as well. So they exchange the have funs and the good lucks and all this sort of thing. But we're going to see some very different evolutions in this game. So we're going to speed up just a little bit. And again, you heard me mention this a little bit in the previous game, but I'm going to re-emphasize it much more strongly in this second game. Anytime you see an opening or a style that is a little bit confusing or that you don't quite get, try to get more replays of that player and just see how it behaves in certain situations. If it worked really, really well, or if it worked really, really poorly, or if it worked really just barely, just sort of mentally note that and try not to draw too many conclusions. You saw Drewby do a little push down in this area, and Braddock defended as he sort of moved his Marines and tanks down here. And I saw that and said, wow, Braddock can barely defend mid-game pushes with his opening style. Interesting. And just sort of noted it. But again, as you're noting these things naively, try to chunk them. Try to chunk the opening into just one broad description. Try to chunk the mid-game into one broad description. And then you're going to start seeing a lot more patterns. So here, we're seeing Braddock do the same thing. I'm going to be a little bit more watchful of what Braddock is doing this game. I'm not speeding through the opening because I was a little confused last game. Oh no, what does me, the poor confused soul, do? I'm going to try to watch and see if I see any patterns. Okay. He's doing the same opening. I'm wondering if he's going to open the 1-1-1. I'm wondering if he's going to transition to these big Marauder forces. I'll briefly bounce over here to Lennon just to say, yep, he's doing some pretty normal stuff. But, what does Braddock have in store for us? A tech lab. Okay, well, wow, weird. How do I swallow this brutal pill that Braddock has forced upon me? I'm going to try to think of it in terms of the other chunks that I've established. That other chunk was in the mid-game. Pretty Marauder-centric style. So, oh, yeah, cool. There's a Marauder going down right now. So already focusing a little bit on that. We're still getting a good economy. Little things like he's delaying gas. I'm not going to worry about that at all. I'm not really thinking too much at that level of specificity yet. But hey, he's pretty much still going to Barracks. And then when he can, he's going to get a factory. He's just throwing a Marauder down. Now, meanwhile, Lennon is doing a very, very weird build where he opens up getting some Reapers. He gets like a Reaper and a Marauder, and he has this Marine out, and because he's saved up money, he expands far away. I mean, funky, funky build. Completely different from the very clever but very orthodox opening by Drewby last game. Lennon doing something completely different from Drewby. And Braddock, when I was originally watching this game, your gut wants to say, oh, Braddock doing something so different, you unpredictable Russian, you know, and all this good stuff. But we're going to start seeing patterns. Starport going down. Still, it is the 1-1-1 mix. Delayed a little bit to get these Marauders up. Cool little push by Lennon as he goes in here and tries to force a little bit of action. And again, the delayed Reaper. I love it. Delayed Reaper plays are probably one of my favorite things in the universe. What I mean by a delayed Reaper is a Reaper that is not a Reaper rush. It's you do a little bit of something else with this Barracks, and then you make a Reaper, so that way your Reaper can bounce into your opponent's base and see exactly what's going on at a critical time. Notice that Reaper came up right when it saw the 1-1-1 style from Braddock. But notice, okay, so we're going to wait just one more second. We're going to wait for this to land, and goodness, what could it possibly be producing? A Banshee. So I want you to say to yourself right now, wow, despite that seemingly kooky adjustment that Braddock did, where he opened up with the Barracks and the Tech Lab and got the Marauders before beginning his factory, this looks almost identical to the last game, as in this freeze frame. If I give you a snapshot of this screen right now and then a snapshot of this equivalent time in the last game, you'd kind of go, Yeah, he's basically doing the same thing. And that is exactly the kind of thought that you want to have. What I would say is that Braddock looks like he is experimenting with different ways to optimize this opening. Different little tiny adjustments he can make with getting Marauders up earlier, getting Marauders up later. Oh, a cloak is going down. Same thing I saw in last game. And after he gets his Banshee with cloak, an expansion is going down right now. So this is completely similar to what we saw in the last stages of the game. We don't have a tech lab yet on the factory, so no sorts of tanks coming out yet. Oh, second Banshee coming up. Marauder's getting repelled a touch as Lennon starts to add on more Marauders. And I'll briefly touch on Lennon's opening up with a very big barracks emphasis, 2 barracks before anything, because honestly, if you take a